and welcome to episode 2 of Jett Set Retro, where I try my best to make an intro to the retro universes format. Um, Last time we went over decks that if you had just like a current standard collection, that video will age great. Um, you could probably build a retro deck and do well. And I'm like, see, retro isn't that bad. Today, I'm going to contradict literally every single thing I said in that video and show you that no, it's probably that bad. I have assembled here, I believe it's 13 decks that I would consider, if you're going to one of the retro 1Ks, you should at least know of this deck. In a perfect world, you'd have like a plan against it and maybe some sideboard options. Um, but sometimes you can't afford that and you just jam and say, my deck is better than theirs or whatever. Um, So while the first video is a lot more like, you can get into retro, I think this one is going to be more like, we've dipped our toes in, and now we will jump face first into the frozen lake and slam our face on the ice. Um, and what better way to do that than talking about Mr. Warcrime himself, Akuma 2. Akuma, if you haven't already been reading, has two effects. 626, not a lot of HP, Evil Order Void. Response, flip a card in your card pool. After your opponent makes a check to play a non-foundation card, it gets -2, failing this one in the combat phase. You can do this when they go to play an attack, so basically every time you block with something, it gets Breaker 2, essentially, or like fighting for control type effect. You can do this when they go to block your move. So if you have another face up in your pool, and you go play a move and they try to block it, you can give their check to block -2. Or you can, if you're playing a move and they try to block it with like a showdown, you can flip your own card to give the check -2. And then the attack aborts and they don't get the block effect. Additionally, and then here's an enhance, your attack. Add the top card of your deck to your card pool face up or face down. Your attack hits +1 damage for each face down card in your card pool and gains stun 1. And you're like, well, this isn't that bad, right? I mean, like you're flipping your cards in your card pool, and then you get, it's like, okay, that's cool. And but like, you're gonna be like, even by your third attack, you're gonna be playing on a lot of progressive. Well, let me introduce you to. I'm trying not to laugh as I say this. Let me introduce you to Akuma's suite of attacks. We're gonna go over those before we go over the other two at the top. Dialect Devil Slayer, Dohatsu Shoten, Kongo Kuretsuzan, and Sekiya Kuretsuha all have this insane line of text that face down cards don't count towards progressive to play it. This counts when you're playing it as an attack. This counts when you're blocking with it. How insane is that? They made this character and you're like, okay, this is like interesting. And then they're like, no, it's not. It's free. It's free. It's free. Like, what? This one is just a 5 high 5, 0 mid block, EX3 powerful 3. This one is 3 mid 5, desperation 3, powerful 2, 0 mid block. You can add the top card to your card pool face down to give it +2/+2. Essentially, this is a 5 mid 7 that can be on a 3 if you're at desperation. Donkey Kongo, 0 low block, 5 mid 4, powerful 2, reversal, and you can remove face down from your card pool to pay for its powerful cost. And then this one checks a 2, is powerful 5, 5 low 5 with a 1 high block. This one's a little more fair, right? Wrong. Response card pool. Remove a face down card from your card pool. After your opponent plays any non-character enhance, cancel its effects. So you play this card, use your Akuma enhance. You play this card, use your Akuma enhance. So try to block it, you flip it. So you've got like 4 face downs in your card pool, assuming you don't have admission fees, which we'll get to. And then you play this. You can make it for like their whole life total because it's getting like 6 damage from your Akuma enhance, and then you can powerful it like 4 times. And then after that, if they try to like moan a normalcy, nope. Use Sekiya Kuretsuha response. They try to like, God, what's another one? Like, I can't even think of another good example. But like, like anything like that. Just nope, cancel it. The other 2 attacks that we're playing in here, 2 copies of Flame Aura. I'm gonna eventually make a retro staples video, I think, and this will be pretty high on that list. Flame Aura, 5 mid 4, desperation 4. When attempting to block with this card, reduce the speed of your opponent's attack to 0. And then while it's in your card pool, whenever a block is played, your opponent bursts for 1 high block. They play any higher mid move, and it can be blocked. It can. Is that not that's nuts? This card is crazy. And then the other thing we're playing is 2 copies of Gyro Attack. Normally, if you see this, it's either like super broken in someone that's not a Mega Man character, or it's bad. It has been my experience. Multiple one. If you don't know what multiple does or reversal does, I'm so sorry. But essentially, you play this, you go Akuma Enhance, then you use the Enhance on Gyro Attack to add that face down to your momentum to pay for the multiple. And the multiples get 2 speed. And the multiple is a face down in your card pool, so it's crazy. And the other Gyro Man card that we're going to talk about, I'm not going to talk about literally every card in the deck, but I just want to give you an idea of what Akuma does. The other card that we're going to talk about here is Admission Fees. It's unique, but we're still playing 4 copies because it's Omega Turbo broken. If you think about, like, if you played when, like, Percy and Mirko 2 were doing Science Bros shenanigans, and you just jammed 4 Science Bros, and if you saw that card and combined Firepower, you, like, won the game because all your moves were 20/20s. It's kind of like that. You can add the top card of your deck to your card pool face down for +2 or -2 speed. In Gyro Man, this was terrible. Because in any character that's not Akuma, this is ass. Because why would you do this? It's like you're giving -2 speed, but then you're blocking on +1 progressive. So by your next attack, it's like you've already washed out the effects. But in Akuma, this is free +2 or -2 speed on every move, unless you want to build. And it's just... And it draws cards! Like, oh my god, bro. It's so crazy. The only other thing I think we really need to talk about here is Cunning and Prideful. This is Akuma gets Airship on a 1-diff. You flip it face down, E-flip, pick up a face down from your card pool to your hand. And then Enlightened by Defeat, commit for 1/1 for each face down in your card pool. And I think that's pretty much everything to talk about. He gets to do a cool thing with Fade where he, like, you play a card, he puts it back in your hand, and then he flips the Fade with Akuma response when you try to play it again. But yeah, Akuma is very aggressive, very resilient, and very annoying to play against. You can breaker all your stuff, and it's kind of the same thing where, like, when people talked about, you know, if Mark Tyner didn't, like, let you fail the check, it'd be fine. It's like, I think we've seen that that's not true. Because even if you can fail, like, just think about it this way, if he goes Fade and then responds to flip your thing, it's kind of like Mark Tyner, you know? But you're still losing that card out of your hand even if you're failing it. And then he gets to untap with all his cards that cheat progressive and have massive damage and just blow you up. I think if you were to talk about, like, #1 war crime committer in Retro, there are very few decks that would come close to this guy in, like, public opinion. There's plenty of decks that are doing messed up stuff, and we'll get to them. But this, I think, is #1 on most people's list of, like, I don't want to play against it. It's insane, you know, like, the stuff Akuma does is just, it's just crazy. It's very aggressive and very resilient. Evil Symbol in Retro is very, very resilient. You can really get away with a lot of stuff. Also gets access to Revoke, which is just cancel any enhance, and also it's a Zero-Diff Foundation for free, and Toguro Brothers, which is broken kill your opponent. Cancel any acid or foundation ability, destroy it, and draw a card or remove it. Just literally whatever, bro. And yeah, Akuma is just insane. Just literally insane. Typically, if you see this set symbol, you're in for a hell of a time. Elena's cool. But, you know, you see this, there's, like, I think, like, 5 of the characters from the set are banned or have been banned. And then I'm grouping these decks into categories, and Akuma is kind of the leader of the evil symbol aggro. Next up, the one I want to talk about is going to be my Turn Loose deck. I wouldn't have put this on here if I didn't just win an event with it, but I do think that this deck will be slightly more popular because of that. Although, who knows? Who's to say? Retro is not comparable to Standard in terms of, like, community vibes, you know, because less people are playing it with, like, the intent to show up and do well, as opposed to just showing up and hanging out and having a good time. If you didn't watch my hour-long video on Turn Loose, you can have this short primer here. Turn Loose is a 7th cross character. He stacks. Character stacking, you get to put extra copies of Turn Loose in your stage, and there's 2 versions of Turn Loose, so you can play both of them. He starts with all of his turn loose ones in play, letting him play a 57 card deck. Um, and the main gimmick here is that you can add a character from your stage to your card pool to give your attack 4 damage. The main thing we're doing this with is Allurophobia. 3 mid 2. What the hell? Gets 2 damage for each character in your stage and 1 for each character in your discard pile. In most decks, most like stacking decks, this is like maybe like a 4 mid 6 at best. In this deck, it's a 3 mid 10 instantly. Just instantaneously, it's a 3 mid 10. Turn 0, it's a 3 mid 10. And you can also remove a card from your stage to double the damage. So the turn loose gameplay loop is like play this Storm Torment, give it throw, it clears. So you've dealt them 3 damage. And if you get the gauge off, like if they don't want to block it, you get the gauge off, you get a guy. You play this, it's at worst a 3 mid 10. You use Turnless Enhance to give it 4 damage. You double it, it's a 3 mid for 28. But Jett, you say, that's so blockable. And you're right. But unfortunately, you checked a -9. The other card that Turnloose gets to play is Call of the Dreamlands. It's a 1 diff action, response remove. After your opponent makes a check, that check gets -X. X equals the number of characters in your stage. If your opponent fails that check, they draw a card. Failing that check is not in the combat phase. Most of my games that I have played with Turnloose have been won by going throw move, or gauge move, give it throw, hit them down to 28 or lower, Allurophobia, make it 28 damage. Your check to block gets -8. And this is a 57 card deck that's playing a bunch of cards that draw and stuff. That is more consistent than you'd hope. The deck can string out just fine and get there that way, but really that's the thing it's trying to do every game, and it's pretty dang good at doing that every game. So, I can't exactly I can't really give you advice on how to beat this deck because I haven't played that much against it. The thing about Turnloose and kind of the thing about most retro aggro decks is that if they draw the nuts, you are gonna lose. It's kind of similar to Standard in that way, where like Mikasa last year, if Mikasa drew the nuts, even if you had like 1 or 2 pieces of interaction, you still lose because that's just how potent the deck was. That's true of a lot of retro aggro decks. And that's also true of the next deck I want to talk about, which is Scorpion. For if a deck has copy in the name, I copied it from myself, and if it doesn't have copy in the name, I stole it from a friend with permission. This is credit to Disaster Dan on the Discords and on YouTube. Go check him out. He got second place at the retro event. I beat him in the finals. This is much more like think about it like how Godzilla played the game, where it was just like I'm just gonna play moves and they're easy to pass. Scorpion's doing that. He's lose 2 vitality, lose 2 health. If your attack is blocked, your opponent loses 2 health. You can lose a health to get this attack +2 or -2 speed, and Desperation Enhanced. So while you're at less than half, 13 or less, your Desperation attack gets +6 damage. 6 is a lot. But what's a Desperation attack? Well, you're all Desperation attacks, of course. You get to play 4 of the Broken One, Flame Aura, because it's a 7 mid 10. You get to play Vicious Madness. This is a 6 mid 14 throw, and so on and so forth. Deathlord's Impalement gets a damage bonus equal to the total vitality you've lost this enhanced step, and gets a speed bonus if you want. So you lose 2 to burn them if it's blocked. You lose 1 for 2 speed. You lose 2 to give it 5 damage, and then you give it 5 speed if you're at Desperation, and then you give it 6 more damage. This deck, when it sun runs you, is kind of like no other. Maybe like tied with the bad check decks, like bad check turtles. In that they're big moves for big damage, and they're pretty easy to pass because they all have desperation ratings. You also get to play like 4 capture the target, cool standard card, and stuff like that. You get to play bench press. I like this card a lot. If you've lost health this turn, your attack gets 1 damage. This is just a 2 diff that says 1 damage in all your moves. Speaking of which, cool new inclusion that should have been in my turn list deck, Final Wars. But yeah, there's not a ton to say about Scorpion, but he's playing moves. Scorpion is more like eminently beatable, I think, than stuff like I think Akuma and Scorpion kind of have a similar thing going on where they are more back swingable, where, Scorpion is cutting health. So you really have to be able to manage, like, at playing as Scorpion, you have to manage, like, do I go all the way down to try and really put on the pressure? Because if I do, I get -2 speed on face, but eventually that's going to run out and I'll die to having a wrong block zone or just their move is too big. Um, and all that. But yeah, this deck is consistent, hurts, lots of big damage numbers, so on and so forth. It is one of the good ones. Let's see what's next. Oh yeah, the next. So those are like my evil symbol aggro decks. The next deck I'm going to show you. Technically, this package has an evil deck in it, but the main head is going to be the Void Ken 2. I call him Violent Ken because look at him. It's another Street Fighter vs. Darkstalker guy. This guy was banned and then was unbanned, I believe. There's 2 effects. Enhance. Remove the top 2 cards of your deck. Your printed 4 or higher difficulty attack gets 1 speed and 3 damage for each attack removed this way. Enhance. Remove the top cards of your deck. If this attack shares a name with a card and you remove from game pile, draw 2 cards. So essentially, what you get to do, you get to play cool cards like Sweeping Daggers, and you go, I remove the top 2. I hit 2 attacks. This is a 7 mid 10. I hit the top 2. There's a Sweeping Daggers in my remove pile. I draw 2 cards. And you do that on all of your attacks. Now, you don't always hit attacks. Sometimes you're sending stuff for printed and you look kind of silly. But this is a deck that is going to draw a ton of cards, play a ton of moves, give it a ton of stats, and is much less interested in saying, like, I'm willing to play the fair game with you, kind of like how the evil symbol decks can, where they say, okay, like I'll build out and I'll try and play a fair game with you till I can sculpt a good hand. These decks will every turn just go fuck it, we ball, and not care because they can, and that's not even like me saying like, oh, the people that play Violent Ken or whatever are like not thinking. And you could make an argument for that, but I wouldn't say that. It's kind of like Pony, where it's like you sit across from him and you're like, this deck is broken and my opponent doesn't have to think, and you play this deck and you're like, okay, there's like sequencing that's going on here that you're not seeing as the opponent. But yeah, the main things to know about Violent Ken, let's see. I think the big one is going to be Guardian's Final Duty. Enhance Remove, discard this attack. So only playable if you have more cards removed from game pile than your opponent. So Enhance Remove, kick your attack out of the card pool. You play a move that's going to kill me, and since I have more removed than you, I'm getting rid of it. I think that's. Oh, excuse me. I think that's about it. Yeah. It just you play a lot of moves and you hope they die. The other deck, and I'm gonna let you know right now. First of all, I stole this list from Wub, much like many a good Universes player has done. This list has not been touched or updated, quote Wub, in quite a while, and you could probably make some adjustments to it. So what's Iori 2 do? 2 effects. Response. After your non-throw attack deals damage, remove it from the game. Your opponent loses vitality equals half the difficulty of that attack rounded up. So you hit him with a 5 diff. Once per turn, you can ditch it from your card pool and burn him for 3. Enhance. Lose X vitality. Your attack gets plus X speed. X is this attack's control. So on most moves, you lose 3 to give it 3 speed. And if you play this ability at least twice this turn, draw 2, discard 1. Kind of how Ken works, where it's like, here's stats, here's a move. Catch. Iori's doing a similar thing, but in a much more like truly I have no interest in playing the long game way. Like, I'm so not interested in what you're doing. I'm just gonna slam all my moves on the table and hope it works. And it does. It does frequently. This deck, you're discarding every enhanced step. You get to play Feral Shriek, which is a cool standard card. You get to do some real crazy stuff, stringing out with Teaming, another card that is banned in standard. Yeah, I think the main thing is Violent. This is like basically an Iori card and Iori's Guitar. But so Violent is effectively Iori enhanced, cut 1 for 1/1, which is good. It's a good effect. Everything else is just kind of, I think if you're getting into retro and you're seeing a lot of similar cards, Face of a Monster, Last of His Kind, Confronting Jeddah, Photophobia, Azure Nightmare, New Empress, you're seeing these names a lot. That's because they are good. Um, but yeah, Iori 2 is just play a lot of moves. Hope your opponent dies. When it comes to stuff like Ken and Iori, you are much more able to play like big turn enders, and actually beat even like good players on these decks. I think when you're playing against like Akuma and Turnloose and Scorpion, against good players, they know when to stop, and they know, especially if they're familiar with the card pool, they know what to play around, and to be able to be like, if my opponent, let's see, if they like Reversal and Novosole, and I'm playing Scorpion, that card's extremely scary because not only does it end my turn, it also gives rid of my minus speed on my opponent's turn. So, um, but these Ken and Iori decks are really not built to handle those as much. They've got like Revokes and Takuro Brothers, but that's kind of about it. You know, if you block with a stop, you can really just say like, all right, dude, chill, and it works most of the time. Something in a similar vein that's kind of its own separate entity is this is actually Jake Hyatt's list that made top 8 at the Chicago event, is the four-hander Mutant Ninja Turtles, which makes all of your bad checks into a 4. In Standard, this doesn't do much. There's some good ones that you can play, but the ones in Retro are just cracked. If you thought Nick Reagan was doing heinous things with Sniping Spy and Warp Gate Portal, I would love to introduce you to all of the cards, all of the attacks in this deck. Um, you get to play Lethal Slash, cool standard card. Tactical Sphere is just you choose an attack in your Riffing Game pile, it becomes that attack essentially. It gets all the text on. It's kind of like Nick Reagan enhanced, but you get to pick your favorite. Um, Coffee Samba. This is a one check. Oh, scary. But it checks a 4, you know. 4 mid 5. Uh, Enhance, draw 2 cards. Your opponent draws 2 cards, and you draw 2 cards as cost. So even if they have the revoke, all they're doing is say, I don't want 2 cards, which is not frequent, but if there's an effect that like cancels a player drawing cards, then yeah, you might want to use it because the bottom enhance, this attack gets multiple X and stun X. X is the number of cards in your opponent's hand. So you both draw 2 cards, but then this is a stun 5. Desperation 2 for some reason. Whatever, man. Yeah, this is one of the crazy ones, especially in your four-hander, because the way to really combat this deck is to hope that it doesn't get off the ground. You're playing essentially 8 copies of Thunderspear demo because you're playing 4 of these, and is it Repaying a Debt? Yeah, Repaying a Debt is like the old version. No block, but checks a 5. And it's just the same effect. Um, you're basically playing 8 Thunderspear demo, and you're saying, I'm going to play all the attacks in my deck. And that is not impossible with, let's talk about Let's Party first. 5 div, 6 less 6, checks a 1, but actually checks a 4. You mill 4, search your deck for any card, put it in your hand, and then remove a card of your choice in your hand from the game. It basically says, go get the best attack in your deck, and then remove a crappy foundation from your hand. The other card is Randy DLC card Hellfire Impalement. 5 high 7, stun 1, checks a 2. You mill 10, draw X cards, where X is the number of cards with a printed control of 2 or less discarded this way. You also get to play 4 of this Foundation that checks a 2, but it actually checks a 5 when you use it to play a Foundation, and checks a 4 when you use it to play an attack because of the Turtles effect. And then enhance, remove X cards from your discard pile with a printed control of 2 or less to ready X Foundations that haven't been readied this combat phase. This card has received an errata, and don't let, I think if there's anything you take out of this section, don't let your Turtles opponents keep writing the same stuff with this card, because they will, and you will definitely 100% die. This card has been errated. If you even click on it on UVS Ultra, oh no, I don't want to do that. I want to, that have not been ready this combat phase. It has been errated. And yeah, don't let people get away with that. This deck is definitely popular because it's like people like Turtles, and if you have access to the one check cards, the bad checks cards, it's definitely it's a bit of a rush, because the stuff it can do, this is probably, I think, in terms of like drawing well, this deck is probably the most resilient of the let's see, of the like aggro decks, because it's just, you can't really check bad, and all your moves are on like at most a 6 if your game's going really well, and and you're drawing a ton of cards off of Hellfire Impalement, Coffee Samba. Let's Party gets you your best card. Tactical Sphere is your best card. Just it's trying to beat you through quantity without stats, and it works just as well as Iori and Ken, who are trying to beat you in quantity with stats. Um, it is a sight to behold. Um, Things that work against this deck, aside from obviously sealing their character, Bang is a great card here. Just the minute they check a one, their turn normally ends because they're not having a ton of foundations. They're really just saying like, my checks are enough because I'm at worst checking a four. In that vein, breakers and card pool clogging also work somewhat well. Card pool clogging is a little suspect because you get 8 Thunder Spear demos and stuff, but for the most part, that works out. Um, and yeah, I think that's about all there is to talk about here. Next up, oh yeah, the next section I'd like to talk about is like water symbol reversal stuff. And First up we have Karama, and this is a credit buck from Stark Dark, my retro plug. You read this and be like, this is a reversal character, and you're right. You start with this one because it's like better defense, but this is the reversal character. Also, you get more HP, which is cool. And you get the good attuned stuff like Team Hero, Pog. Um, here's what it is. As after you block with a reversal that you can normally play, you may attempt to play it as a reversal after the block attack resolves, and then after your reversal deals damage, doesn't counter, it's progressive for the turn. Basically, you stack in Karama 1 and 2, and you're using your reversals to bully your opponent on their turn. Mileage may vary on how many of these decks are actively able to kill you on their own turn versus just waiting for you to play 2 attack. Be so foolish as to play 2 attacks in a turn. The big ones to know about, I think the most important is Precise Blow is just a really good card. After you block with it, you seal their attack and add the top card of their deck to their card pool face down. It's also a reversal. You can hit them for 3. If you combo with another reversal, you can hit them for 6. But it's only 1 speed. Basically says take a card out of their hand, which is quite good. Um, the big technology here, I think, is Tongpu's Assault. It's a reversal, but you can pick up a character from your discard to your hand and give it multiple 1. But also, you can use the enhance your character's schematic ability for the rest of the turn and just start playing your characters like normal. We're not playing any gauge moves. We're playing for 2 Moment of Rest, but we're not playing any gauge moves. So we're just, we're doing our best to get those stacking in. And then the other big one I think is Rose Whiplash. Combo with reversal. This is a 9 low for 9. That's horrifying. And then also opponent's turn, just pick up a reversal. This is pretty crazy, right? Other than that, this deck is on the water symbol, so it gets Bang. Bang, I don't think we talked about before. I mentioned it before, but enhance removes. Heal a card in your opponent's staging area. Also, response own Taisei. But mostly enhance remove. Seal a card in your opponent's staging area, which basically says seal their character most of the time. And yeah, I think that's about what I have to say about Karama. We can talk about the next one. I'm gonna segue like this is Jose sent me a Kuwabara list a long time ago, back during the retro event in Jacksonville, Stark Dark, which at this point may have been a year ago. And it's kind of doing the same thing, but is interested in playing proactively. You get, Air Ground Smash is a deadlock reversal that you can pick up with Rose Whiplash, because even if you're not in deadlock, it still has a reversal keyword, you can pick it up. Kind of playing a more fair game, where it's like, I'm going to attack you on my turn, I'm going to attack you on your turn, and kind of get the most value out of both of those. Kuwabara 1 for the uninitiated. This card is also received in errata. This top effect is once per turn. I think that's the only change. Yes. Commit Foundation, 4 damage step, return to printed. So if they DR your move, you can return to printed. If they make their move really big, once per turn, you can say, no, I take 4. Smile. Once per turn, after your attack resolves, add it to your stage face down. This works on both turns, so you play your Air Ground Smash, you draw 3 cards, then you build a face down. On their turn, you reversal in like a Precise Blow, and you build a face down, and you're accruing advantage. It's much more mid-rangey in its plan, where it's trying to you got 5-hander HP with this set to printed effect. and you're kind of bullying them down with the pokes, the good value pokes, and then eventually you're going to be able to assemble this big string and kill people. I don't necessarily know this is a deck you'll see at the 1Ks, but I think it's important to kind of show off the variety of water symbol reversal stuff, because the general package of like Rose Whiplash, Precise Blow, Scratch Glissando and stuff, and some good proactive water moves is pretty common among water symbol gamers, and it isn't. I'm not necessarily that it plays all the same, but it is a similar vibe and something that you can in general be prepared for. Now, just because someone is on water doesn't mean they're doing this. Um, you can play against like Faye or something, and they're doing nightmare shit to you all the time. I haven't even played that deck, and I know it's insane. Um, and the last deck I wanted to talk about here is Xianghua, which is a Soul Calibur character. Xianghua is a 7-hander, 19 health, twice per turn. After an attack is blocked, you may play an attack with a printed damage of 3, no check necessary after it resolves. You may not play a reversal of this attack. Essentially, on your turn, they block your move. You get to play a move for free. This may sound similar to Titan of Terror. You just play Destructive Heat Ray and you own them, right? Yeah, you can do that, but you do it on their opponent's turn. And then twice per turn, you're attacking stun 1. That's whatever, right? Well, hold on. Xianghua's fancy asset from Soul Calibur, Crit Yuga. Twice per turn, stack its +2 to its stun rating. So on your turn, you play a move, you give it stun 1, you increase the stun rating. You stun 3 of them, they deign to block it. You respond Xianghua, you play another move, you give it stun 1, you make it stun 3, and so on and so forth. And the bottom enhance, ready something and give it 3 damage. What are we doing here? This card is crazy. If you ever wanted asset hate, there's a million war crime assets in retro. This is one of the most. Honestly, if an asset is from Soul Calibur, you should probably expect war crimes. But yeah, so anyways, the interesting thing about Xianghua, they stun you out on their turn with their air quotes reversals, but they don't have to be reversals to do it. You can reversal stuff like Swallow Your Soul, which can get really big as a throw, gets you momentum. Lower Great Wall is a stun 2 move already. You use this in combination with Xianghua and Crit Yuga. You've stun 5 them on their turn for 9 damage if you get the combo. Precise Blow, similar thing. Stun 3 for 9 damage. Ignore the fact that the summer promo version doesn't have the enhance. Windmill Punch to multiple them a billion on their turn. And Ice Dragon, stun 3, give it +2 to the stun and 1 to the stun, and then stun them 6. Gross. Stun freeze them 6, I should say. Disgusting. Disgusting. You get to play water, you're on bang. Another good water card, just to know about, is God of Thunder. This card's crazy. Destroy a foundation, ready something, playable while committed, and then you can also commit it for 2 damage, whatever. But yeah, it's just playing good water defense and hoping that the stun gets there with its not mostly printed, because you're giving 3 damage twice per turn. That's not nothing at all. But basically kind of saying, these reversal decks, if you're prepared to deal with their offense and you know the way to do it, and really I think more than any other deck, if you are fully prepared for what they're going to do and kind of ready to take it on the chin, or play around it in a deft way, you can really get a lot of percentage points there. Okay, what's next? Oh, right. Now I'm going to show you my DeechNet list, and you're going to be like, holy shit, you have so many attacks, you have so many cards in this deck. And you're right. This deck is, what is it? 72, 85 cards? It was at 100, but I cut them down. This is in a category, this really doesn't need to be here. This is me doing a love letter to some of my favorite stuff in the game, which is Void Control, my beloved Momentum Mommy. Basically, this deck, and the other one I've gotten here is Eraserhead 1. These decks are just trying to, kind of grind you out, It's really just, they're gonna sit there and poke you down and say, I never die. You'll think oh, I use my bang or I play a bunch of throws or whatever, but most of the people that play these decks are fully aware of what's going on and are like, oh yeah, well, I have answers to your answers. And that's what makes universes so peak, is everybody has answers to the answers. But I think these decks show that the best. Um, Degenet and Eraserhead do. There's not really too much to say here. Just if you want to be Degenet, be packing your Momentum Hate, your Wishing Wards. Radiant Visage is still a great card in Retro. Ancestral Quiver is a great one. It's just an action that says form. Your opponent discards all their momentum, and it effectively doesn't count towards progressive. So you can play that and then laugh at your Degenet opponent as their face does literally nothing. Um, Here's this. If you've read this card, if you were able to read the text on this, essentially, whenever your opponent tries to play a card as a form, you can spend momentum, and you ditch it from their card pool. They can lose health equal to the number of characters you have to pick it up and try again, essentially. And this is you start with the spell circle and your momentum. It basically, you can discard a card to put in your momentum at the start of each turn. But yeah, there's not much I have to say about that deck other than pack your momentum hate. This is Elijah from the Let's Talk server and other servers, but mostly the Let's Talk servers. Eraserhead deck. Um, it is very similar vibes, It's just trying to get by on value and saying your offense doesn't do anything. Like I'm able to bully you into submission, sort of, and eventually kill you out with like throwing moves. And when one hits, I respond 4 Shell of a Proud Man. Um, this deck I think is more equipped to kill people than my Degenet deck is. I much prefer to sit there until my opponent gets sad. But I was just more interested in like killing people, which is probably the correct way to do it. But these decks, more than anything, will require you to read your opponent's board, which sucks. In Retro, oftentimes you can get away with like what on your board does stuff. Against these decks, everything does stuff to you, and if you don't know them all, I'm sorry. But that's about how that goes. But yeah, that's what I have to talk about there, and I've got 2 decks left. The next one is Sophisha. This is another Soul Calibur character. How do we have 0 Libra characters on this? Huh. Interesting. Anyways, it's 2 effects. Response. Check for after your attack is blocked. After an attack is blocked, commit one of your opponent's foundations. You choose targeted commit on block. Cure you wishes. And enhance its attack. It's +2 or -2 speed, and if it deals less than its printed damage, target commit one of your opponent's foundations. Now, notably, if it's fully blocked, it doesn't deal any damage. That doesn't count. But if it's fully blocked, you have to do the top response. But yeah, this deck is in the same vein as the reversal decks, but it's not as aggressively trying to reversal you. Like, it's still playing forward Nouveau Soleil and then 2 Raptor Rush, but mainly it's just trying to go like in the same way that Xianghua and Kurama go like, you deign to attack me and I murder your firstborn. It's kind of doing that, but in a way of like, I stun you out and I laugh at you and I say, you do not get to play the game, and I'm very disappointed that you thought you could. And then it untaps and walk the dog, indiscriminate shocks you to death, and then kills you with a powerful 5 Moonset. Moonset, by the way, is this card. Put back one of their hand, advantage in their hand to get a momentum. But yeah, it's just good blocking, and if you can play through the shenanigans, if you're playing somebody like Akuma, that can play, or like Bad Check Turtles that can play most of their moves on 5s, or you're playing like Turn Loose, decks that don't really need to string out. You can break through the wall, but this deck is very good at just saying like, I'm prepared to deal with your shenanigans. I've noticed in general I haven't given very much good advice to beating these decks, and that's because A, I'm bad at teaching, and B, the answer to war crimes is play your own war crimes. There's good stun hate in the format. But the last one I have is Stone Man. I've topped the Stark Dark event that I spoke of. We split top 4, and I played Stone Man. If Akuma is the president of war crimes, then Stone Man is like the king of war crimes in another country. You know. Response. After an attack gets a speed or damage bonus, the deck gets -2 speed or -2 damage. And the rest of the text doesn't matter. It comes up, but it doesn't matter. Basically, what this deck does, it puts these armors in your momentum. Armor of the Wolf, Armor of the Ape, and Armor of the Phoenix. Armor of the Wolf and Armor of the Phoenix are the big ones. And then it has a bunch of effects that say, like, this attack gets 1 damage or this attack gets 1 speed. And it responds Stone Man to make all your moves 0 damage. The game plan essentially amounts to, I assemble my Rube Goldberg machine, and I say, all your attacks are 0 damage, and I sit there and I thumbs up emoji you through all of your enhanced steps and laugh at you. The ways to beat this deck, if you can deck them out, right? Like if you're playing, there's not really. If you're like playing a larger deck than them, it can get really hard for this deck to win the game, because like a deck that's relying on, I'm gonna spend 6, because my experience with Stone Man has been, most of my games were won by win game 1 to deck out, don't finish game 2. Or like, I get set up enough that my opponent goes, I literally can't beat this, scoop. Game 2, oh, I literally can't beat where we're at now, scoop. And if your opponent's playing like, one of those 100-card void control decks and knows you're not putting up like offense, they will just deck you out. But most decks aren't doing that. If you're playing like an aggro deck, you're not here to do that. So what are ways to beat this deck? Things that say your damage can't be reduced. Things like Guardian Angel of Chinatown, and Dark Chireto is a card that says while it's in your card pool, your damage can't be reduced below printed, I think. It might just be your damage can't be reduced. Card's crazy against Stone Man. And then my personal favorite, I think one of my favorite cards to have in my sideboards is Hellgate Executioner, that says, enhance for the rest of the turn, your opponent must lose 4 health to play responses. Card hoses a lot of decks unintentionally, like, the reversal decks and stuff. But the main thing it's good against is this guy, because it turns off his face, essentially. If you want to lose 4 health to give me -2 damage, you're more than welcome to. Things to note about this guy. If a card says, here we go. If a card says +1 speed and +1 damage, that's 2 separate bonuses. You get to respond with Stone Man twice. So like if I commit Fist of the Ages, this attack gets +1 speed, response window, I respond Stone Man, and +1 damage, response window, I respond Stone Man. Similarly, a lot of your setup can be in your momentum, which can be hard to deal with, but also can be easy to deal with if you have stuff like Ancestral Quiver and just like a lot of momentum hate, Radiant Visage, Azuna Drop, Wishing Ward, and so on. But yeah, I think those are the 2 things I really have to say about Stone Man. This deck kind of exists in the realm of like 90% of decks aren't really built to beat it, but the 10% that are kind of own Stone Man, like it's not close. Like a bang on this guy, a well-timed bang can really just like bang into string out. It's rough. It is rough. And then so yeah, those 10% really just own this guy to where he's not like, I wouldn't say he's like a top threat like how I would say Akuma is, but he's something you want to know about, and if your deck isn't already like well positioned, you want to have an answer. Yeah, I think that's what I got. I definitely did a terrible job doing this. I'm not going to record it again, but I'm gonna sit on Akuma because this guy is crazy good. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me on Discord at JettJaguar. Feel free to leave them in the comments. If I see them, I'll reply to them. I'm terrible at looking at comments. I keep forgetting that people can do that. Or you can like at me in the Discords or DM me directly. I love talking about retro, and I will do it all the time. If you think there's any decks I missed that you're like, my goal here was to point out decks that I think you are either more likely to see, stuff like Akuma, Sophisha, Scorpion, um, and then some kind of water reversal stuff, or decks that you should know exist. Stuff like Stoneman, Sophisha in that same vein, the Void Control stuff, and you are prepared for. Because I think if you're like a fledgling competitive in air quotes retro player, it can feel bad because there's not like a lot of places to test retro. So you show up to these events and then you kind of there can be games where even if you're a great player and you're adaptable, you can lose game one to just not having that knowledge. So I hope that this helped at least a little bit. Um, if there's any decks, I guess, that you would like to see a more in-depth talking about, let me know. I know some of them I just kind of glanced over, and that's mostly because I didn't have as much experience with them. I did what I could to prepare for this video, but I really want to get it out there just to talk about. Um, and I think I did an alright job. um, if I've grossly mischaracterized your pet deck, please let me know. Um, other than that, I think we're good. I think we're good. Yeah. If you have any questions, add me in the discords, hit me up in the comments. Yeah.